Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
The Texas Senate primaries are drawing national headlines. You may have heard of the Democratic candidates. Representative Jasmine Crockett, whose spat with Marjorie Taylor Greene in 2024 lit up social media.
If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad-built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Or James Talrico, who was recently interviewed by Stephen Colbert. An interview Colbert said CBS tried to bar him from airing.
I think that Donald Trump is worried that we're about to flip Texas.
Both candidates would have a big hill to climb. No Democrat has won a statewide election in Texas since 1994, and promising candidates from Beto O'Rourke to Wendy Davis have tried and failed to change that fact. But people think Crockett or Talrico really could, and it's making them wonder, is this the year for a Democrat in Texas? This is Radio Atlantic, and I'm Adam Harris, sitting in for Hannah Rosen. Atlantic staff writer Elaine Godfrey has been covering this Texas race and also following Representative Crockett. She profiled her last year. And then, while Elaine was at a Crockett campaign event this week, this happened.
Okay.
Why are you asking me to leave?
They just said Elaine from Atlantic, white girl with a hat and notepad. She's interviewing people in the crowd. She's a top-notch hater and will spin. She needs to leave. I just told her to get her bag and go.
We'll get into that soon.
Sure.
Elaine, welcome to the show.
Adam, thank you for having me.
So the Texas Senate primary, why has this race captured the national media attention? What's going on in the Texas primary?
I think what's made the Texas primary on the Democrat side so exciting is that both of the candidates are really popular. Voters are excited about them both, genuinely. And also, the dynamic here is you have two fighters, and Democrats have been saying they want fighters against Trump. And each of these candidates does so in a different way. So you have Jasmine Crockett, one of the Democrats. She's a congresswoman, two-term congresswoman, who is much sharper in her criticism of Trump, much more willing to throw insults, much more bombastic. She's on cable news all the time. She's in hearings, blasting Trump and aggressively sort of questioning witnesses. And Democrats love this. They love to see, a capital F fighter.
Yeah.
You also have James Talrico, who is running against her, who is a state lawmaker in Texas. They used to be colleagues in the state legislature. He's also a preacher in training, and he's a little quieter. His approach is a lot more peace and love. We need to heal as a country. He talks a lot more about let's join hands with our Republican friends. Trump is made in the image of God, and we should be fighting against the top and the billionaires rather than each other. So they're both fighters, and they're both sort of channeling Democratic rage and the rage of voters at this moment, but they're doing so in very interesting ways. And I think that has just, it's such a perfect encapsulation of this moment. So it's very exciting to watch.
Yeah. And so you've been watching this for a while. You go to Texas to cover the race, and then what happens?
I go to Texas to cover the race. This is my first event. I show up on Monday morning to an event for Jasmine Crockett. And it's, there's a line out the door. It's in Lubbock, Texas. It's in a rural area, an event center on a county road. I'm interviewing all of these people who have come to see Crockett. They're so excited. The vibes are really good. I come in, I show my badge. They put me in the press section. I watched the whole rally. I was taking notes the whole time. It was the kind of rally that I think if you're a candidate, you want a reporter to be at, right? Because she looked great. She came off great. People loved it. Afterwards, they had a press availability for her. And there were only a few press there, most local. And I went over to join, and her press person, after I identified myself, her press person, one of her press people said, "It's already full, you can't go in there." I said, okay. So I went back to keep interviewing people who were lingering in the building. And then a different person came up to me and said, her team wants you to leave. And I said, why? And she said, because she said she read from her phone. And she said, they're looking for Elaine from The Atlantic, a white girl in a baseball cap with a notepad. She's a top-notch hater, and she will spin. She needs to leave. I don't think they were supposed to have read that message to me, but they did. And then immediately security guards surrounded me and escorted me out of the building, through the parking lot, to the edge of the county road where I had to get an Uber.
And you recorded this whole interaction, and it's a good thing that you did record it, because after you published the article, the campaign denied it. They said that they didn't actually say that.
Yeah. First, a spokesperson for Crockett said that didn't happen. Then a CBS reporter was interviewing Crockett and asked about it, and Crockett said there's no evidence that a reporter was ejected from my event. She also said the specific reporter in question has a reputation for not being truthful and has been sued for defamation successfully. She didn't say my name at any point, but it was pretty clear she was talking about me. I have since reached out to her and to her campaign multiple times to say, could you clarify what you meant? And I haven't heard anything back.
And for the record, have you been sued for defamation successfully?
I have not. No, I haven't.
Yeah. Thinking about being turned away from rallies, we've seen over the last several years, right, instances of reporters being turned away at campaign events. Has something like this ever happened to you before?
Yeah, at Trump rallies. It's always been... But they've treated me better at Trump rallies when they do this, I would say. This has only happened a couple times at Trump rallies where they've sort of said, we don't have room for you, which is just, that's never true. But it's never, you're a top-notch hater kind of thing. And so, it has happened. I would say the kicking reporters out of rallies, Trump's fans love that. A lot of Jasmine Crockett's fans seem to like that too. They like the way that she sort of manhandles people, right? The way that she says, you know what, I'm not putting up with that. Yeah. I guess I should say that I wrote this profile of her last year that she didn't like, and that she had tried to shut down because it was something that she thought was going to be unflattering.
How did she try to shut it down?
So she called me 4 days before that profile of her was going to be published, and she said, I heard you've been talking to members of Congress, my colleagues, her colleagues, without asking me, without my permission. She said, and so I will be revoking all permissions and shutting down the profile. That is obviously not how journalism works. So we published it. You can read it at theatlantic.com. I think it's pretty fair and good. I think she gave me tons of access for that story. She talked to me a lot for it. I think it's pretty fair. And I think so that was pretty surprising that she tried to shut it down, and even more surprising that now, she appears to be holding that against me to this day.
Yeah. So you mentioned, right, that she's sort of no shrinking violet, right? Like this is a part of who she is as a politician, right? It's a fighter, capital F fighter. You put it in your piece. You said she doesn't wilt before the president like cut hydrangeas. So is this, right, indicative of maybe a broader trend in the party, right? We had the classic Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high. Is this a way of sort of signaling that there's an end to that?
I think for some candidates, yeah. I think that there is an appetite among Democrats. I mean, Republicans have already blown past that benchmark, right? Like, there is an appetite now for Democrats to do the same. And I don't know if it means we'll see more reporters getting thrown out of rallies, but specifically when it comes to swearing, insulting people, not being willing to correct the record if you make a mistake, or if you accuse someone of defamation when of having been accused of defamation. Like, I think there is just a real increase in tolerance on the left now for that, because they're saying, well, look at the guy in the White House. He does that all the time. Why can't we? More importantly, why shouldn't we? If we want to win, we might have to play dirty. So I do think there's going to be, I think the midterms are probably going to have a lot more of that than we've seen before.
Yeah. So, of course, you were in Lubbock, so you're in West Texas. You don't just stay in West Texas and then leave, right? You continue to cover this race. So you go out to Tyler. And there's a part in your story where you say you were asking folks, why James Talarico? And at the Crockett rally, similarly, why Jasmine Crockett? And they seem to have a interest in the other candidate, but it was just about that style. Can you just talk to me a little bit about that? Like, what is that actually saying? That they're both interested in the policies and the people, but the style is really kind of what's different.
Yeah, I was surprised given how controversial or ugly the primary has seemed online and from the outside, that when I got there, people who like Jasmine Crockett still told me, but I like that James Talarico too. He seems nice. I'm not going to vote for him, but he seems nice. And if he was in a general, I'd vote for him. People were not so much interested in their policies. They were interested in style. People who liked Crockett liked that she was going to go out there and go after Trump, going to prosecute people when Democrats were back in power. People who liked Talarico, they were kind of playing a little bit of 3D chess, right? They were saying, well, I like Talarico because I think he'll appeal to more Republicans and independents and moderates when the general election comes. So maybe they would prefer Crockett. Maybe some of them would prefer Crockett, but they were thinking about electability. And I think Democrats in Texas are really balancing this urge for a fighter with a desire to win.
So we've been talking about the Democratic candidates. Obviously, the primaries are on Tuesday, and you've been watching the Republican side as well. So what should we be looking out for?
So I think the Republicans have their own real mess over there. I would say there's 3 Republicans in the race. John Cornyn, who's already a senator, who's running for re-election. Ken Paxton, attorney general, who is running against him. And Wesley Hunt, who is sort of the spoiler in the race. People like him. Who knows if, he may be the force that sets the race to a runoff. But I'm watching what happens if Paxton is the nominee. Right now, polls show he's probably going to beat Cornyn. He's probably going to be the Republican nominee for the race. And here's why Democrats love to hear this. Because Paxton brings a ton of baggage. He was impeached and acquitted over allegations of bribery and corruption. He was accused by his wife of having an affair. He has this long laundry list of scandals that Republicans are worried is going to make him just a toxic candidate, and Democrats are really excited will make him so weak that a Democrat could finally win in Texas. And I think part of what makes Talarico particularly exciting for a lot of Democrats is they think he has the best chance to beat Paxton if it comes down to a head-to-head. I think Crockett probably would have a good chance too, although her unfavorables are very high compared to Talarico's. So that is something I'll be watching too. That's something we'll all be watching is what happens on the Republican side, because that's really going to determine what the chances are for a Democrat to win statewide in Texas for the first time in 30 years.
Yeah. So they're thinking it could be like a Doug Jones, Roy Moore kind of situation.
Exactly. Yep.
Cool. We'll be watching. Elaine, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
This episode of Radio Atlantic was produced by Rosie Hughes. It was edited by Claudine Abade. Rob Sperziak engineered this episode and provided original music. Claudine Abade is the executive producer of Atlantic Audio, and Andrea Valdez is our managing editor. Listeners, if you like what you hear on Radio Atlantic, you can support our work and the work of all Atlantic journalists when you subscribe to The Atlantic at theatlantic.com/listener. I'm Adam Harris. Thank you for listening.